challenges still every day. The challenges don't stop. Even when you start making a bunch of money, they don't. Like, it's just, you get better. The challenge is, it's every level, there's another devil, but you get better. And so as you get better, those things become less stressful. They become easier to manage. They become easier to be able to, facilitate and navigate through those things. And so, it's an exciting journey. But
everybody, Grady, Polcyn here, Family First Life America. So excited to have my two special guests on with us today, Mr. Cody Barton and Miss Cynthia Medina. Cody is a massively successful businessman, and Cynthia is the director of insurance and operations for his company. I'm going to give them better and more intros as we come, but I wanted to just like, who are these two people with you, Grady? Let's just get over with real quick. These are the two people. So, Cody's the president and CEO of Start Virtual, who's a company that hundreds of FFL agents are utilizing, and even more in the real estate space, which is very cool to hear. But and we'll pivot to Cynthia too in a second. But maybe we'll just start with you, Cody, and you can give us some insight and some backstory and some education on what you've done and what you've created, and also maybe some insight as we're all a group of entrepreneurs, business owners, people that want to get better, that have mental demons, that have struggles, that have challenges, that have to wake up every day and fight the clock, have to fight to keep producing. And you're someone that people would, despite your humility, you're very successful. And that's something that you're very humble about, and you're kind of understated guy, but it's society is, as a numerical and societal statement, you're very successful. And I think that's something that all of us as people who do want to get better and do understand that I got to this point today on my own, and I can't get from here to where I want to get without the help of others. And I'd love if you could, just give us some insight, pour in us a little bit, tell us about you and what we can all do to get better.
Yeah, definitely. So Grady, first of all, thank you for having us here. We're excited to share. And I just think in general, just because, having that entrepreneur spirit, like, so many of you do, there's so many challenges and things to overcome within that, right? Going from, maybe where you don't have a steady paycheck to now it's you're only getting paid if you produce, right? And so, I'm 28 years old now, and my entrepreneurship journey started when I was 17. And so I'm going to do my best to make a long story short of that. But, from 17 to 21, I started my entrepreneurial journey in network marketing, and, quickly built a team of a couple thousand people all over the world, and traveled speaking, in Europe and Australia, New Zealand, all over the United States, putting together events and leading teams, and, going through a lot of trials through that. And, 4 years into that, the company I was a part of, I was used to getting checks every week. Suddenly no more checks came. And so as a 21-year-old, at that point, I was used to making, 6 figures a year since 18. And so, give a young kid a good amount of money like that, and you make a lot of stupid decisions. Went out, bought new cars, was living in a house that I probably shouldn't have been living in. Instead of investing, I spent all my money on Louis Vuitton shoes, belts, bags, traveling, and other dumb stuff. So I learned a lot along that way, because one of the best parts about being broken down and, having ego death, in my opinion, is what happened to me, is that you gain new perspective. And so, one of those things and one of those lessons that I learned, through that period is, you can be as successful as you want to be, but if you don't manage your money and you don't have strategies around, what you're doing with that money, it can, the money can go away. Because I have friends that are millionaires that are living paycheck to paycheck. Why? Because they spend it all. They're buying, they want to buy the newest car all the time. They want to, spend as much money as they possibly can. And so, just a quick nugget of a book that, really helped me during that period. It's by T. Harv Eker, Secrets of a Millionaire Mind. And so I went from, earning 6 figures every year until I was 21 to then nothing. And I had zero to show for it, had to literally move back at home with my parents, sold everything down to my cars, down to my mattress, and had to start over. And yeah, that sucks really bad when you're used to living kind of a more of a cushy lifestyle. And so, I got to this point. I'm like, well, what the heck am I going to do now? And so for me, the path that I decided to take was in the real estate industry. And so within a couple of years, got up to making, 6 figures again as a real estate agent. Realized that wasn't exactly what I wanted to be doing. It wasn't scalable of a model that I wanted to follow. And so got into investing in real estate at that point. And, within the last few years, have now built that to where have, about $14 million in real estate holdings in Arizona, and then a few bigger, multi-million dollar multifamily properties in a few other states, have a fix and flip business that does over $1 million a year, have a wholesaling company doing over $1 million a year, have a media company doing a couple million a year. And then another company, our baby, Start Virtual, that, is pacing for 10 million this year. So, and I say that because I have to, otherwise people are like, who the heck is this guy? I really am not comfortable usually talking about that stuff, but hey, we've figured some things out, and a lot of business principles transfer over regardless of what industry that you're involved in. And so, I understand the struggles of when you're first getting started, especially, and you're starting to scale your business, and maybe you hire some new agents, and then they're lazy, you have to fire them, and you have to go and hire some new ones, right? Like we deal with that in our companies too. That's not just probably an insurance agent thing. Like we deal with that within the companies that we run and that we operate as well. And one of the things that has stuck with me that I love to share this story, because a lot of times what you see is like, oh my gosh, like I look at Grady's organization, I'm like, he's so successful. How could I ever achieve that same amount of success? Or you look at Jordan Lowry, or you look at Hayden Hill or Nina, you look at these top producers, and they got drugged through the mud. You just didn't see it because you're seeing them now standing on stage. You're seeing them now presenting at, this is how great our operation looks like, but it wasn't, without challenge. It wasn't without grief of, maybe agents quitting on them, all the no-showed appointments that they went to, all of the leads they spent money on, and then, they couldn't get the opportunity, right? Like people go through those challenges. And one of the first challenges I ever had, right, was, and a lot of people, regardless of industry, have a goal of like, I would love to own some real estate, right? Like I want some rental properties where I can, build some long-term wealth, diversify my portfolio. And so the first rental property I ever bought turned into the first one. And so this is like, I wasn't making a ton of money at this time. I'm like, I'm excited. I'm going to get my first rental, and I'm going to build my wealth and get this first rental. Without going too much into the details, ended up losing $35,000 in a 1.5-year lawsuit within the first month of getting into that deal. So what does a logical person do? They don't buy more real estate. You're like, you know what? I am not going to do that again. But the reason, it's like that, I use that more as like the reason, and, there's no testimony without the test. And so I use that as like, that is my test to really break through this barrier. Cause I know other people have done it. I have mentors that own hundreds of properties, that own millions and millions and millions of real estate. And I'm like, well, they can do it. And I just know that I'm going to figure this thing out. And so that's something that, as you're building, your insurance agency and, watching people just, put up amazing numbers, it's so cool to see. But, that doesn't happen without the grief, and that doesn't happen without those challenges. And it's really about, identifying like, what is it that you want? Like, what are you trying to accomplish? And then, when you establish that, like that strong why, that compelling reason for why you want to be successful, that's what pulls you to your goal. I could have easily just quit and like, you know what, I'm just not going to buy rentals. I'm going to keep fix and flipping. I'm going to keep wholesaling real estate. I'm going to keep doing that, but I'm not going to hold rentals because I had a bad experience. I had a mentor, tell me this. I don't remember. It's always these weird analogies. It's like, someone told me, they're like, just because you got burned one time doesn't mean you should stop. Right. And he's like, well, do you love pizza? I'm like, yeah. And he's like, well, have you ever burned your tongue on pizza? And I'm like, of course. And he's like, well, you stop eating pizza? I'm like, well, no. He's like, well, that's what you have to look at, is like, you're going to have those challenges. You're going to have those problems. And, along the way, it's just those are the tests that make your testimony. How are you going to build a great agency, and how are you going to build a great team if when your team comes to you and says, Grady, I'm having a really hard day, and you're like, well, I've never had one of those, I don't know what to tell you, it's like, that's what's going to allow you to be that person that can, influence them and show them, hey, this is what's possible. Those are the challenges you're going to go through, but here's the destination once you go through those challenges. And so, obviously grateful for, where my companies are today. And it's been an amazing journey. Challenges still every day. The challenges don't stop. Even when you start making a bunch of money, they don't. Like, it's just, you get better. The challenge is, it's every level, there's another devil, but you get better. And so as you get better, those things become less stressful. They become easier to manage. They become easier to be able to, facilitate and navigate through those things. And so, it's an exciting journey, but it's a hard journey. That's the thing about being an entrepreneur and being the solopreneur of building this thing, is it is hard. It is really hard to do. But when you get past through that hard and you can get to that bliss of like, this is really cool, like seeing what you've been able to build, like this business for me is my baby. Like, all of my businesses are like my little babies. And it's like, that's the fun part about it, is you get to, grow and be able to build that. So I know I'm, rambling a little bit here, but this is,
you said you have something on money management that you wanted some principles that you've been really successful at. And I think that's a big part of our issue too, is that agents can come in here, they get licensed, they can be able to produce. I mean, some agents go from no license to be able having writing numbers within 2.5 weeks.
Yeah.
And then the carriers will pay you out if you make a sale, sometimes in 24 hours.
Yeah.
So we've got agents that'll come in here and they'll go to work, right? And they'll protect up 30 plus families in a month, which is a significant changing income. And the problem they have is they go, well, I'm used to making $4,000 a month, and now I just protected 30 families. There's a lot coming in. I don't know what to do. And they just kind of, sometimes they go to Cabo, sometimes they just stop working for 3 months. And you're like, hold on, you just got a skill set. You got good at it. You proved yourself you could do it. You proved your family right. You proved yourself right. You're learning this stuff. Don't go to Cabo, come back. Like, so what are some things that maybe you did early on as far as, maybe sticking through, and then also how you managed your money early on to kind of put you in a position to be at where you are today?
Yeah, definitely. So, so reiterating, one on that book that I had mentioned before, again, it's by T. Harv Eker, Secrets of a Millionaire Mind. What I've found is that, people are they have a blueprint. Like, we're all wired with certain blueprints of like how we operate and how, we think day to day, especially around money. And so, one of those things is like, imagine, like, when we think about money in general, we think about lottery winners. Like, most of the time when somebody wins the lottery, they're broke within a couple of years. Well, how is it that this person making, say they make 50, 60 grand a year, they win the lottery, they get millions of money in, and within a couple of years, they're broke? It makes you scratch your head, and it makes you go, how does that happen? And how is it that person ends up back there? It's the same as and I'm sure that there's agents that, you've seen this happen to, where essentially the best analogy I've ever heard on this is like, imagine, we're in Arizona. So imagine you have a house and the air conditioning is set at a thermostat at 70 degrees. And imagine you open up all the doors, you open up all of those windows, and it's 110 degrees out, and all that air starts coming in, hot air starts coming in. The temperature is going to rise. So as that temperature rises, it goes to 80 degrees, 90 degrees. That can be compared to that of the person winning the lottery. They're used to 50 grand. They're used to their thermostat being set at 50 grand a year. And now they've essentially opened up their financial doors, their financial windows to where this money or that hot air is coming in. And so now they get that lump sum of cash. And now let's close all the doors, close all the windows. That thermostat is still set for 70 degrees. So what's going to happen? It may not be instantly. It's going to start to cool down back to 70 degrees. And that's the same thing that happens with people with money, is if you're used to making 50 grand a year and you go up to making, say, 200 grand a year, and literally overnight, as it sounds like for some of these people, it's not really overnight. Like, got to get their license, go and work, do the work, but they go to, making 4 grand a month and now 30 grand in a month or whatever it is that they made in that month. Their financial thermostat hasn't been reprogrammed, meaning their blueprint, their money blueprint hasn't been programmed. So what people tend to do is they start to self-sabotage. As this avatar of a person, am used to making $4,000 a month or $3,000 a month or $5,000 a month, whatever that amount is. And now I have all these changes. So what they're going to do is start to bring all these bad habits and self-sabotage things of, imagine somebody that when they were growing up, they were told that, like maybe their grandparent or maybe their parent said, people with money are bad. People with money are evil. People that make a lot of money, they're crappy people. They must have stolen from somebody. They must have taken advantage of a family. They must take, they pick on the little guy.
Yeah.
Like that's the thing that starts to happen is, a lot of people get told that like money doesn't grow on trees, like all of those, financial blueprint things that they were told growing up. Now they're older. So what happens when you put $30,000 in a month in your bank account? Your brain subconsciously is, my grandma told me that people with money are bad. My grandma told me that people with money must have stolen from somebody. So what is your subconscious going to do? Do a bunch of self-sabotaging garbage that's going to make them spend the money on dumb stuff. It's going to make them, be just wasteful. It'll make them just go on a vacation because now they have to figure out to spend it. They're like, I have this money. I need to spend it. I need to get rid of this, when they have to do that work on their mindset. And so that book by T. Harv Eker, Secrets of a Millionaire Mind, really goes into the blueprint and like your money personality. Then just goes into actually explaining some of the percentages of like, how you should move your money around, like money comes in, like what happens with it. Like if you only have one bank account for like all your money goes in there, should probably not do that, especially, as you get into this business, you start making money. And so, do you want me to go into like the actual different? Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So essentially, like I set up personally for myself different bank accounts, and in that book it breaks it down. So one of the accounts is called a financial freedom account, and so that money that's just a normal savings account that's set to put money into and to be invested. Don't spend it on dumb stuff. So so your financial freedom account, that's to go into things that you're going to invest and that will be reinvested. That's what that's for. Another account is a long-term savings account, which that is like you put that money away for like, maybe it's a vacation you want, or maybe you're saving money for like a down payment on a house. Like that's what that account is for. Then we have another account, which is an education account. This is, an account that, and it goes over the percentages in the book, so I won't bore you with all the details on that. But the education account, that's specifically for you to invest in you. Because for you to change that financial blueprint, that thermostat in your head to go up in increases of multiples of money, you have to invest in yourself so that that can continue to increase. So that's what the education account there is for. So we had financial freedom account, long-term savings account. We have our education account. Then we have a give account, which is in the book, it talks about like giving to, whether it's your church or, however you choose to give as a giver. I choose to give to, sometimes it's the church, sometimes it's like a cause that I get excited about. I'm like, I want to give to that certain cause. And so those are, the simple versions of like, as money comes in, allocating percentages to those different accounts, because as you start making more money, money doesn't become this transactional, like money I buy stuff with, and then like I get more and I could buy other stuff with. Like I view money as like it has a job. That money comes in, all of this money is assigned to a different category to accomplish a certain purpose. And that's just what it does. So my emotions towards money isn't very high because I just think of it as this money is going to come in, it's going to be allocated to these things. And then within, like, say it's investing, that money is going to be allocated towards certain investments. And that's how the money runs. And so that's how I've been able to, successfully manage money, is by having those things set up. One thing I didn't mention is, it doesn't say this in the book, but I just think it's important to have, is an emergency fund for yourself. Which, starting off, maybe you're like, I'm not making a bunch of money yet, so I can't really do that much of that. Like I say, like get to $500 in an account where it's like your, oh crap account. Like I have this money here, or, once you've gotten there, then like another target's like, if you can get to 3 months reserves, like that's awesome. And then if you can get to maybe 6 months, that's even more awesome. Right. And, past that, it's like, that's just kind of personal preference. But the nice thing is that when you start setting things up this way, money has a job to do. And then, like, especially having reserves, it allows you to act more freely. Like I don't act out of, fear of like what's happening with money, because I set up these reserves. And, we also do it with our companies. And so when we have money that we're spending in our company, we have, okay, what are we spending a month? So say if maybe you're spending $5,000 a month on leads. I don't know how much people spend on that, but say you're spending $5,000 a month on leads. One of the goals that I would say would be a good goal is, hey, how do you get like in a reserve account, maybe 15 grand? So you have the next 3 months of your expenses. So maybe you have a light couple weeks, and then, you know, you do well a couple weeks, God forbid you go on vacation and you still have expenses going, you know, so that you have that reserve to be able to replenish. So your business is always running. So you're not running on E all the time, which is what a lot of entrepreneurs do. So it's my,
geez Louise, drop a CB in the comments below to show some love to Cody Barton for lighting up our brains right now on how to manage our money better, because that's a big, important part of this. We can help you make it, but you got to invest in yourself and discipline yourself to learn how to diversify, spend it, and best make it put to work. Funny story. I was given that book by my father when I was 20.
Oh, really?
It was an amazing book. I read it and didn't apply any of the principles and was broke till I found FFL. So that's so you know, you have FFL and you have the book now. Come together. Let's change your financial blueprint. But a phenomenal book. I've been following him since then, and you know,
so good.
But T. Harv Eker, great. He's got all kinds of other stuff. But Seek as a Millionaire Mind will change. It'll change your life. It'll change your life. And it's very well. Like, that's what's cool is you start to grow yourself and grow your mind. I love your education fund. You talk about, Darren Hardy talks about 3%, right? Take 3% of your income. And it's, you know, you're making 40 grand a year, 3%. It's a small component of your business. Go to make 400, go make 4 million, go make 40 million. How are you going to, that 3% gets significantly bigger on things you need to invest in yourself to make yourself better. But thank you, Cody.
Yeah, 100%.